Praise the Lord. Good afternoon, everyone. Let us stand for invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Missions will lead us in invocation.
We're going to keep it simple tonight. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus Christ teaches his disciples how to pray, and I encourage you to follow along with me if you know the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
City Council agenda is divided into 4 sections: consent agenda, public hearing, public comment, and general business. The first section is the consent agenda, includes routine items that can be approved with one vote.
That's your votes.
Nope, not all folks have had a chance to sign in. So I will go ahead and call for the voice vote. Councilmember Feraldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Missions?
Yes.
Councilmember Timmer? Councilmember Wilder? Vice Mayor Deemer?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Oh. Okay. All right, the next section is public hearing. These are required by law or directed by council. The procedure: staff will give a presentation. The public can give comments. Individuals have 3 minutes to speak. If speaking for a group, you have 5. Group speakers must say which group they represent. Each group gets 1 spokesperson. Each speaker must say their name and the locality of residence. After public comments, the public hearing will close and the matter will rest with council. Agenda item number 6. Consideration of adopting a resolution supporting and endorsing an amendment to the City of Lynchburg, Virginia Enterprise Zones 2 and 46. Ms. Margaret Upster, Director of Economic Development and Tourism, will provide a summary of the request.
You know what I was gonna do. There you go. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. Tonight's presentation covers boundary amendments to the city's 2 state-designated enterprise zones, Zone Number 2 and Zone Number 46. These changes are a result of several years of analysis to ensure the zones remain aligned with our economic development goals and state program requirements. The purpose tonight is to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution authorizing submission of the amendment package to the Department of Housing and Community Development by November 1st, 2025. Enterprise zones are one of Virginia's most effective incentive tools, offering job creation and real property improvement grants to businesses that invest and expand within these designated areas. The zones, however, are limited to 7% of the city's total land area and can have no more than 3 non-contiguous zones. The enterprise zone program functions as an incentive overlay and does not impact land use or zoning. Both zones are mature, meaning adjustments typically follow a take one out, put one in approach. This year's amendments remove ineligible city and EDA-owned parcels and add private properties positioned for development or redevelopment and growth. The zones cover many of the city's adopted master plan areas, such as downtown, 5th Street, Midtown, Campbell Avenue, and along with nearly all of our industrial parks, ensuring alignment with the city's long-term land use vision. Zone 2 includes some of our oldest and most established industrial and commercial corridors. We have 1 acre left unused for this zone. The adjustments remove public parcels that do not qualify for the incentives and add the eligible parcels already located in employment and commercial areas. This keeps the zone efficient, compliant, and focused on development and redevelopment. Zone 46 includes Ivy Creek Innovation Park and Lynchburg Center for Industry. We're removing 1 large public parcel and adding smaller developable ones nearby. Those acres can be strategically aligned with employment, commercial, and industrial corridors identified in the new comprehensive plan in FY26 and beyond. So we are adding 15 acres to Zone 2 and 37 acres to Zone 46. We will have but we still have a large number of acreage left, and therefore we will come in 26 or 27 to align that with the comprehensive plan. And that will support future growth, and it'll strengthen our position for smart scale and VDOT funding. So in summary, these boundary amendments keep the city's enterprise zones compliant, competitive, and ready for investment. It reflects careful long-term planning and ensures every acre serves a clear economic purpose. During 2024, Lynchburg's participation in the Virginia Enterprise Zone program generated $17.7 million in private investment across 14 parcels and secured over $1 million in state grant funding that came back to our private sector owners. Some of these businesses, but not all of them, include Delta Star, Framatome, Bausch & Lomb, and Liberty University. They use the program to expand or reinvest, demonstrating its broad impact across sectors. These amendments ensure the program remains aligned with the city's future growth priorities. Thank you for your attention.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? You have a question for Mrs. Wait a minute. Yeah.
I just want we get those maps that you sent us up to, or that I think maybe it was Ken sent us up to, just keep them up on the screen. That's all, because I think it's good to have that visual. That's
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
all I have.
Does anyone want to speak in favor of the projects? Anyone want to speak in opposition? Ms. Alicia, is there any voicemail from citizens?
There are none.
Public hearing is now closed. May I have a motion? Please cast your vote. No, it's discussion. Okay.
No, I just want to thank you for working on this and working on this with staff. And I really want to thank you guys for bringing those extra maps out. And when I look at this and I see some really great areas specifically, it looks like there's a lot of additions in Ward 3, like the Ford Avenue corridor that could really use some love. And that's something really great to see that amendment. That's why I support this. I think it's nice to see this kind of spread around a little bit into other areas where they may not have had this opportunity before. So hopefully we can get some good investment in those areas.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, I thank you for the information. Really appreciate it. You know, it's so important to have all kind of tools in our toolkit to make Lynchburg grow and make Lynchburg stronger. And this is another tool we have with the enterprise zones to help with job creation, help with real estate improvement grants, and rest other resources that we can tap into. So thank you to our city staff for finding additional resources to make our economy stronger here in Lynchburg. Thank you.
Ms. Timmer?
Some follow-up questions from PDC, and I really appreciated your noting the upcoming submissions in order to align with the comprehensive plan and some of the things that we discussed in planning and development. The main question that I really have is the 227 unused acreage that is in 46, Enterprise Zone 46. And the reason that I'm curious about that is why we're holding that pot. And I think it's great to move it from public lands to private lands, but the specific public lands that are being discussed are the EDA land on Wigington. And there have been a lot of questions about the use of that land because it was zoned industrial, but the topography isn't favorable to that. And so then is it going to go residential, or does it need to be kind of ancillary business? Or there's just a lot of questions about how that land use will be most effective. And I think a lot of it's actually conservation property right now. And so I'm just curious why we're taking an incentive that's on property that really hasn't been determined as to its most viable use and applying it into these zones when we have additional acreage, 227, that well exceeds the 165 acres. You mentioned essentially adding 37, but why that strategy? Help me understand that, because I think it's great, the trajectory, but I want to make sure I'm in line with the strategy.
So the property that you're speaking of is the property on Wigington Road that belongs to the EDA that has the topography challenges. It's also, I've had a master plan done twice on that property, and it's not really suitable for industrial. And so therefore, it's most likely to end up residential or not. And I don't want to take a bunch of acreage that we could use in other places all over the city and leave them in an area that is most likely going to be residential, which cannot take advantage of the enterprise zone.
Which I think is great thinking, but why not use the 227 acres from Enterprise Zone 46? Does it have to do with the contiguousness nature of how these have to be mapped out, that it has to be pulled from Enterprise Zone number 2?
No, that you take the parcel from whichever zone you're working with. And yes, non-contiguous areas are very important. So what I'm doing is that large parcel that you see on 46 there, that acreage is coming out, and that's where you get the 227 or the 160 there. That's the acreage I'm going to have available for us to reappropriate across the city. But I'll have to be careful with it because I can only have 3 non-contiguous areas. So I can't pick it up and put it down anywhere. Okay. And you see, I waited a very, very, very long time to take that property from Wigington Road there, that EDA-owned property, that they can't use it before And with all the development that's going on Wigington Road, that is not going to be, that property will be much better suited, deployed elsewhere.
And I don't want
in
to
the
see it
city.
industrial. That's not my point at all. I was just trying to make sure that we weren't, I was conflating the 227 unused acres. So you're getting a large portion of that from this Wigington pool, and then that's what's going to be
Exactly.
redistributed.
Exactly.
I was seeing the 227 as an available pot, and that this was being redistributed before the available pot was being appropriated.
No, I'm
Okay.
only getting that pot from that.
From this, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
That's so helpful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
We're gonna be really good at that gate before the day's over. I have a simple question. I remember enterprise zones back in the day when we kind of came into existence. But I'm trying to understand, back then there was a lot more emphasis on tax exemption benefits for properties. There is no tax exempt benefits in any of these properties, is there?
No, and what happened was these zones have been around for like 43 years, right? That zone 2 is very mature, right? And it got set down on somewhere and I inherited it and now we've structured it to make it
I can
use.
see
And
why.
and the General Assembly's changed the laws on it because in the original enterprise zone, you had to live and work in the zone in order to take advantage of the benefits. So like you had to catch the bus and work in the same area that the industrial company was there to be able to do that. So what happened was it used to be that no nonprofit or no tax exempt entity could ever take advantage of the enterprise zone. It was only taxable properties. They changed that law probably about 8 to 9 years ago now they don't let necessarily like a church take advantage of it, but they do let some nonprofits, and that's been incredibly helpful because I don't have incentives for nonprofits, right? So, but they add a lot to the community. So they, at the state level, which controls, General Assembly controls all the laws with this, they allowed that in the last, probably 5 years. They've allowed nonprofits to take advantage of it.
So the only way it impacts our tax revenue in the city of Lynchburg is that it potentially increases it.
Yes, sir. Because I'm bringing $1 million in here to give out to your neighbors.
Thank you for your work.
You're so welcome.
Let's vote.
The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Agenda item number 7, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the reprogram of community development block grant funds. Ms. Melva Walker, Grants Manager, will provide a summary of the request.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, Vice Mayor Deemer, and members of City Council. Tonight, City Council is conducting a public hearing to receive public input regarding the reallocation of Community Development Block Grant CDBG funds. In fiscal year 2023, program year 2022, within the CDBG program, there were community development funds allocated for the Diamond Hill Neighborhood Plan and Improvement Project on Pierce Street. These funds were allocated for the addition of a tree lawn on the 1200 block of Pierce Street with the installation of new curb and gutter and the addition of accessible ramps. A bid has been received, and due to the increased cost of construction materials nationally, the bid exceeded the amount of funds allocated for this project by $17,110. In fiscal year 2026, program year 2025, there were CDBG funds allocated for the Diamond Hill Neighborhood Plan Phase 2 improvements, Dunbar Community Schoolyard Project. The community development staff has indicated that in order to complete the Pierce Street project, the project scope for Phase 2 will be revised to accommodate the reprogramming of the CDBG funds to the Diamond Hill Neighborhood Plan and Improvement Project so that it can be completed as previously planned and to accept the bid received for the project. Here you can see the 1200 block of Pierce Street, which is the project area. This slide depicts the plan components of the construction project. The Community Development Advisory Committee, CDAC, was consulted regarding this matter. Dr. Wilder and Councilmember Timber are members of that committee. There was a unanimous consensus from the committee to recommend to City Council for the approval of the reprogramming of the funds. A public notice was published in the News in Advance on September 25th for the 30-day public comment period. The community development staff is requesting that $17,110 be reallocated as I have indicated.
Here who would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition? Ms. Alicia, is there any voicemails?
There are none.
Public hearing is now closed. May I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Wilder?
Yes, again, thank you. I'd like to thank the team for making these recommendations. One thing that was beautiful about this is a community-driven project where citizens from the community, certain wards, and Ward 2 especially, give their input in how these funds can be spent. I think one of the projects here had an increase in cost, so they're moving some funds to another project and replace it. I think that the next year funds are how that works, pretty much. This. Yep. Yes, thank you. So again, it's beautifying those areas with those CDBG funds and has great community input on how those funds should be spent. They went through several discussions with the Diamond Hill neighborhood about what they really wanted to see in their neighborhood. They had great input. So thank you to all the residents from Diamond Hill and all the areas who participated and stakeholders who participated in those discussions. Thank you.
It's never fun to come and say something $17,000 over budget, but just to kind of, again, reiterate and clarify some of this, there's phase 1 and phase 2 of the project. And so essentially those are getting paired together in a way as far as covering that $17,000. So this isn't city funds, this is appropriated from the CDBG funds, and just making sure that that project is completed in a timely manner. So thank you to Ms. Walker and your team for the work on that. And thank you, Dr. Wilder, for your leadership on CDAC. And I'm in favor of the proposal.
Any more discussion? No? Cast your votes, please.
Initiating vote now. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent. All right, the next section is public comment. Speakers have 3 minutes to speak. If you're speaking for a group, you have 5. City Council listens to your comments and may ask the city manager to follow up. Citizens often have different opinions. To make sure everyone feels comfortable speaking, there is no applause, cheers, or jeers. Do not intimidate, insult, or disrupt others. Do not use profanity, promote businesses, or campaign for office. Agenda item number 8 is here from a group representative regarding thank you for supporting CVACL nutrition programs for Lynchburg residents. Jeffrey Roby, Central Virginia Alliance for Community Living. Please restate your name, group represented, and locality of residence.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Jeffrey Roby. I am a resident of Lynchburg, Virginia, and I'm here representing Central Virginia Alliance for Community Living, Inc., on behalf of Deborah Silverman, our Executive Director. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, City Council, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. In behalf of Deborah Silverman, Executive Director of Central Virginia Alliance for Community Living, as a representative of your local nonprofit area agency on aging, as well as nearly 22% of the city's population over the age of 60, persons living with disabilities, and caregivers that we serve. CVACL has a major funding source, and it's the Federal Older Americans Act, which mandates certain services and supports in all jurisdictions and implies that the support of jurisdictions for match funding. We cover over 5 areas in the region: Amherst, Appomattox, Bedford, and Campbell counties, and also the city of Lynchburg. Each of these jurisdictions provides support. Every jurisdiction in the state provides support, and most likely every jurisdiction in the nation provides support to their local area agency on aging. Local funding is very critical for matching the federal dollars allocated by the Older American Act services and support we provide. Removal of these funding jeopardizes hundreds of thousands of dollars to support local seniors, persons with disabilities, and caregivers. Last year, CVACL spent in Lynchburg alone almost $500,000 in support of seniors in the Lynchburg area alone. We provided 600 in-home needs assessments for older adults, 8,415 home-delivered meals through our Meals on Wheels for Seniors program, 1,331 trips for medical support. These were one-way trips, along with a number of other services include nutrition education senior sites, offering of meals, recreation, education, peer supports for older adults, personal care for the frail and the elderly, care coordination, options counseling, senior cool care that provides window air conditioners or fans to help prevent heat-related illnesses. And my favorite, Farm Market Fresh, which offers seniors the ability to go down to our local farmers market and purchase produce. And I really love that program. I am the nutrition program director there at the agency, and it's a program under my auspices, and it is a really good program. It helps a lot of seniors in our area. That being said, we just want to say one thing. We want to say thank you for reconsidering entering us back into the budget. This means a lot to the older adults in our community. This really makes a difference. You know, it may seem small to some folks, but it makes a big difference to the persons that we serve. I did a lot of service in my life. I'm a veteran. I left the military and I'm serving again. And it's an honor to serve we would say the most vulnerable persons in our community. You know, so we just want to say thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Thank you, sir.
Agenda item number 9, hear from a group representative regarding justice. Greg Berry, City Elders. Please restate your name, group representative, and locality of residence.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Taylor, Vice Mayor Deemer, and council members. My name is Greg Berry. I live in Ward 3, and I represent the Lynchburg City Elders. To God and His Son, Jesus Christ, be all the praise, honor, and glory. I know that there are those who believe that there is a separation between church and state, but that is nowhere in the Constitution. The First Amendment says, in part, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That amendment was designed to restrict the government, not the church. Our forefathers were predominantly Christian, men who established this country based on Judeo-Christian values. This is a Christian country. As Alexis de Tocqueville noted, Not until I went into the churches of America and heard her pulpit flame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. And that is exactly why there are those who would restrict where and when God's word can be expressed. They are afraid of the power of God and would prevent others from using that power. They serve another God, a lesser God, who has come to steal, kill, and destroy, a God of chaos. In order for their God to be successful, the lie of separation of church and state is used to discourage God's people from using that power. It is the responsibility of each person to make the choice as to which God they will serve. The God of the Bible, which leads to order and prosperity, or the lesser God that leads to chaos and death. I've heard it said here that there is violence on both sides, and that is true. The difference is how we justify it. The left justifies it by calling people names like racist or Nazis, and therefore feel it is just to use violence against anyone who opposes their point of view, as they did with Charlie Kirk. How many celebrated his death because they thought they silenced him? They silenced only the man, but will never silence the message. The right side also uses violence. I freely admit it. We can and will use violence to protect our family, our loved ones, our homes, our city, and our country. That is the difference. We are fed up with being told that we need to be nice while others are actively destroying our country. I will be as nice as Jesus was when he used a scourge to beat the money changers and drive them from his Father's house. I have noticed that some objectors don't like what I say and respond to this. That is not church. Patrick Henry said, "Bad men cannot make good citizens." It is when a people forget God that tyrants forge their chains. A vitiated state of morals, a corrupted public conscience is incompatible with freedom. No free government or the blessings of liberty can be preserved to any people by any form of adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue, and by a frequent recurrence to fundamental principles. Virtue, morality, and religion. That is the armor, my friend, and that alone renders us invincible. These are the tactics we should study. If we lose these, we are conquered, fallen indeed. So long as our manners and principles remain sound, there is no danger. As I've been saying for so long, adherence to God's words and principles will only make our city and country peaceful and prosperous. What is stopping us from making the right decisions? I know which God I will follow. Thank you.
Agenda item number 10, hear from a group representative regarding support of Lynchburg Public Library bookmobile. Megan Fallon, Friends of Lynchburg Public Library. Please restate your name, group represent, locality of residence.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Megan Fallon. I live in Ward 1. I am here on behalf of the Friends of the Lynchburg Public Library, and I have some more board members and supporters here with me tonight. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I am honored to share some wonderful news on behalf of the Friends of the Lynchburg Public Library. Our community has come together in a remarkable way to raise more than $278,000 to make the new bookmobile a reality. This project was funded through the efforts of the Friends, a nonprofit made up of engaged citizens who care deeply about our library and its mission. Contributions range from $1 to $75,000, coming from individuals across the community, corporations, grants, and foundations. And you all actually have a remittance envelope right now. So if you want to make a gift tonight, I'll be glad to accept that. Each gift, no matter the size, represents the belief in what this library on wheels will mean for Lynchburg by expanding access to books, technology, resources for daycares, senior centers, underserved neighborhoods, and community events across the city. This initiative is a wonderful example of the public-private partnership. The Friends raise the funds for the purchase of the vehicle, and the city of Lynchburg will adopt the bookmobile into its fleet, provide ongoing service to residents. It could not come at a more meaningful time as we celebrate 60 years since the Lynchburg Public Library first opened its doors to all citizens. This new bookmobile carries that spirit forward, representing the next chapter in our shared commitment to literacy, equity, and connection. On behalf of the Friends, thank you for your partnership, for your continued support. We can't wait to see what this bookmobile on the road as a symbol of what our community can achieve together. Thank you.
Agenda item number 11. Hear from a citizen regarding council's proposed legislative agenda. Michael Bremer, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of council. I'm Michael Bremer. I reside in Ward 4. Council's legislative wish list is a window into its political desires. As such, citizens of Lynchburg should be aware of these proposals. Cryptocurrency is a high-risk investment. Government Finance Officers Association advises against investing in cryptocurrency. You should trust the experts. Collective bargaining improves public sector employment, leads to improved morale, and reduces the vacancy rate in public sector jobs. According to the Commonwealth Institute, public sector employees earn 28% less than their private sector counterparts. Yet Governor Youngkin rejected collective bargaining for firefighters this spring, preventing their voices on issues such as working conditions, pay, benefits, and staffing. You should support collective bargaining for public employees. The elimination of the treasurer's office is unnecessary. There's no redundancy in the treasurer's responsibility, which is almost exclusively to manage the collection and remission of funds to the state. Its work is not related to the operation of city finances. Education. A number of wish list items concern education. Some are laudable, but should be left to the school board and superintendent. However, 3 items are of concern to our residents. The proposition that council could mandate electing the school board by ordinance alone rather than by citizen referendum negates citizen involvement in such a momentous change. This proposal deserves careful public debate as it is fraught with prejudicial history. Removal of school board members by council dissolves the distinction between the responsibilities of city governance and school governance. Authority already exists for removal, resting with a circuit court, which ensures due process rights. School choice, asking for public dollars to, quote, follow a student to the public, private, or faith-based school, end quote, of their family's choice, undermines the concept of public education. Public education is for the common good, designed to promote civically engaged residents and support the development of common values and experiences. Funding is already a source of contention. This proposal continues the assault on public education and teachers who already feel disrespected. As a council, you have a platform to change the tone of public dialogue and should focus on how to improve student outcomes rather than to create division. Thank you for your time.
All right, agenda item number 12, hear from a citizen regarding proposed legislative agenda, ballot security. David Levy, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and members of council. I'm David Levy. I reside in Ward 1, Ms. Timmer's ward. As Mr. Deemer knows, I'm very active with the issue of ballot security in the elections, as you all know. I was very concerned to read in the legislative agenda a proposal that the governing bodies, the city councils and boards of supervisors, be inserted into the ballot security process. People may not know, but in Virginia, the state law is very clear with regulations from the State Board of Education that we are to keep the voting machines and the ballots under very strict security controlled by the general registrar, the electoral board, and the clerk of the circuit court. The election equipment is kept at the registrar's office. The ballots after the election go through the registrar to the electoral board and then to the clerk of the circuit court. To insert a governing body in that process would, I believe, make that process seemingly less transparent, more susceptible to politics or the apparent role of politics. And I think that specific proposal in your legislative agenda should be changed or eliminated. You need at least to acknowledge the role of the circuit court clerk. If you've ever visited the vaults in the circuit court clerk, the records room, you realize what an important function that is. That's where our old ballots are for the 2 years after an election. And they're safe. They're not susceptible to tampering. So please reconsider that particular provision in your legislative agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, our next section is general business. It includes new items for discussion. Agenda item number 13, consideration of adopting a resolution approving Lynchburg Redevelopment Housing Authority revenue bond issuance for 1300 Campbell Avenue. This item was discussed during the Finance Committee meeting earlier today.
Submissions, I defer to Mr. Missions, chairman of the committee.
Trying to catch up on where we are on the agenda. All right. So, yep, I got it. It's just slow loading. All right. So earlier in the Finance Committee, we had a presentation from Tom Martin, our Community Development Director, on consideration of adopting a resolution to approve the Lynchburg Redevelopment Housing Authority revenue bond issuance for 1300 Campbell Avenue. If we could get that presentation so that people understand this is, it's pretty significant. It's $30 million of revenue bonds. We have to we have to approve this for it to happen. It's a requirement of the governing body to approve this, but I think it's important for all to see this presentation. And then after you deliver the presentation, I think that it would be also beneficial if council has any questions of Tom or the gentleman, I can't remember his name, from Astoria Partners, who is here. I can't remember your name, sir. I apologize for that. But I do think it would be appropriate for Mr. Hall, if anybody has any questions, to address those.
Council, thank you for letting me talk to you this evening. Each year, the Commonwealth of Virginia is allowed to issue a certain amount of federally tax-exempt bonds, and these are referred to as private activity bond. The Code of Virginia reserves 14% of those bonds for local housing authorities to issue to qualified projects. So these bonds are really coming from the Department of Housing and Community Development. They're responsible for issuing the private activity bonds, and they also set them aside for certain local housing activities. Astoria Housing Partners has requested that the Lynchburg Housing and Redevelopment Authority serve as their conduit for $30 million of these bonds to finance the redevelopment of 1300 Campbell Avenue into 120 to 125 apartment units. So the 1300 Campbell Avenue is a former Barker Jennings building. It was constructed in 1919 as the Martha Washington Dormitory for Jobbers Overhaul. Interestingly enough, it started out as a residential facility. It moved into an industrial facility, and now it's being converted back to residential. It's currently zoned B4, urban commercial, and it's been vacant since 2009. So the Housing Authority has approved the issuance of the bonds. There's no financial obligation to the City of Lynchburg. There's no financial obligation to the Housing Authority. LRHA would receive an administrative fee, and Finance Committee, I apologize, I made a math error. It's actually 1% of 30 million, which is 300,000, not 30,000. I did say if my math is right, and I'm good at some things, but math isn't it, I guess. But the project would meet the requirements of a qualified residential project, meaning that affordable housing. So a little bit more about the project. Overall, it would be a $50 million investment in that building. The rents would range anywhere from I don't believe that slide made it in. It did not. I apologize. But $990 for a studio up to a little over $1,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Essentially what it is the rents would be 15% below market rate is what these units would be. The property would be managed by SL Nussbaum, which, I'm sorry?
It's okay. That's fine.
Did I, Nussbaum?
It's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which has offices in Richmond, in Virginia, the Carolinas, Washington, D.C. They actually manage over 29,000 units. I did do some Google searches on them. They're very responsive to the tenants, so they would be actually managing this facility. They also would have a local person on site managing the apartments. There would be security on site 24/7. So Mr. Hall is here if you have any questions of him, but that's the project.
Mr. Hall, could you come up, please, sir?
You could just kind of introduce yourself, Mr. Hall.
Sure.
Tell us
Yes.
where you're.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much for considering our project. Tom did a good job of summarizing some of the important features of this bond offering. No obligation to the city. This is a conduit pass-through, a private placement bond that PIMCO will be buying, and it will be serviced by Boston Capital as seller servicer of the transaction. So they'll supervise the construction inspections, the percentage of completion reports, and manage the construction loan. As Tom mentioned, we're asking for $30 million in bond, and we have a $50 million redevelopment of this project. We're going to spend approximately $400,000 a unit, which is a lot of money. We're going to deliver a Class A building, even though this is for affordable housing. And we can do that because the property is a certified historic structure, and therefore it not only gets credits for affordable housing, but it gets credits for historic, federal historic credits. So the bonds go during construction from $30 million. stabilization down to 10.5 million. So the long-term debt on this project, when we're all done because of the credit stacking, winds up being a very safe economic transaction. And so the majority of those bonds are retired at stabilization after construction completion. I live in Virginia. I've lived here for 35 years. I have another property in Newport News, 151 units, same type of redevelopment, and not as nice a building as this building. I think we're all pretty proud of having acquired 1300 Campbell Avenue. We bought it in June of 2024, so we own it. And we have our capital ready to go as long as we can get the council to bless this transaction tonight. This should be a very successful redevelopment and a great opportunity for tenants inside Lynchburg to enjoy a Class A experience at a discount. And so that's what we're proposing tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Appreciate that introduction. I think that's very helpful. The only question that I've got, and I think it kind of hearing it a second time, some things came together. So you guys are building and developing the building, that's correct, and then there's somebody else that's going to be managing it after it's built. Yes. Is that right?
Yes, Nussbaum manages my property in Newport News as well. So we have experience with them, and they're very experienced in these kind of transactions. As Tom mentioned, they have over 29,000 units they manage, about 150 properties. So these are, we've gone through a lot of property management companies with the buildings that we've owned. These guys are great, and they're right here in Virginia.
Fantastic. And then the other question that I have, and then I'll leave the rest to any of my peers that may have any questions, is, looking at this, it's a big deal because there's only a limited amount of bonds that we can issue a year, correct? So how many projects do you guys have out of the ground right now that you've actually completed and delivered on?
Well, we've got 2, and we've got 7 in total. So we've got, at various stages of pre-development, we've got another 5. All similar type buildings. Again, we're in the business of renovating historic properties. I would say that, that's the group kind of that you have right now. In our background, we have thousands of units that we've been involved in, either rehabs or rescue jobs or new construction. So even though as a group we haven't done that many, the experience of the group collectively over time is pretty significant.
So, but you guys with Astoria, you said you've 2 out of the ground you've completed?
Yes, that's right. 2 right now. Yeah.
And that's Newport News and where else?
Well, yeah, it's actually Lynchburg and a property in Trenton. I am a partner and owner of the Newport News property. Astoria does not own that, but I own it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you haven't actually completed.
We completed Newport News. Astoria has not completed a project, but yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because we came together 2 years ago. That's correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll leave it to any of my peers. Mary Taylor.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. I'm going to summarize some of what I've heard. So this hasn't come to a work session yet. It went through finance today and is coming before council today. At this point, and I'll summarize why, but my recommendation to council would be, or my request would be, and I'm not making a motion yet, this is for discussion, but that we table until the next meeting and it goes to a work session and then comes before council. The reason being, in reviewing, and I appreciate all the information that was provided, and I've gone through the packet. I see 2 properties that you all have acquired, and I think it's a great concept because my question was the how, right? Because in business, you can't do good, cheap, and fast all together.
Right.
And so, what's the business model? How is this sustainable? And you answered that, I believe, with essentially the compounding of the credits and how those apply together with the interest rate.
How we delever the property and we wind up with a very low long-term debt. Our target for all these properties is to wind up with 20 to 25% of the total capital stack in long-term debt. So these are highly equitized properties. So we don't stress the property. We can run full-time security. We can be very careful about how we screen our tenants and sleep well at night. So yeah, that's our business model. That's correct.
That's resourceful to me because that was my primary question. The other is the longevity of how this has played out in other cities or municipalities. And I love I love that you're looking at 1300 Campbell because I've been driving by it and I've been thinking, what do we do there? And housing seems to be the thing that you do there. So I love the trajectory of this project. I love the feel of this project. I just still have questions that I'm still even trying to discern what the appropriate questions are with understanding the bonds, how these things work together as we move forward as a council. So that's just I guess where I would feel most comfortable as a council member is if we can have a work session on this. I can, hash some things out with you, Kent, and ask some additional questions because I need to word process it a little bit. And it's not really a dais discussion. It's more help me understand the fullness of this and help me make sure that I'm grasping how this is working together appropriately so that I can recommend this with full confidence. Because I love the idea of it. I love the trajectory of it. Those are just questions that I still have.
One other thing that I would point out is this is actually very important, that the three partners, myself, Ben Edson, and Alan Michaels, we are on the hook for any recapture personally of those credits over a 15-year period. So even though we get these credits, this is not free money to us. We're recourse. Should we do anything wrong that would violate any of the covenants associated with those credits, it's recourse back to us.
Thank you.
So it's a commitment, right? It's not a hit and run situation.
Right. No,
We're long-term investors, long-term holders. We're doing this not to say, hey, we came in and did a project and left Lynchburg, right?
Yeah, thank you.
We're tied to this.
How did you get connected with the 1300 Campbell property? How did that come to your attention?
Well, when Mr. Edson and Alan Michaels and I got together, we had all been doing various things in real estate, but we said, this is the model that we want. We're looking for buildings we know that the National Park Service will put on the National Registry first and foremost, okay? So we wanted to do certified historic structures. Okay. And then what we wanted to do with those structures is add an affordable housing element, because in the marketplace, that's where the hole is, right? Affordability is the crisis that we have on our hands from a housing standpoint. But you can't make, under Section 42 and some of the programs that are out there, you can't make these properties work just on an affordable housing credit. They stress, they wind up economically stressed, and they wind up a problem inside whichever municipality they're in. So by stacking the credits and delevering the property, we wind up with addressing the problem, but in a much safer manner.
Yeah.
So, that's the business model that we put together. We said, look, we're going to continue to have affordable housing problems, but the programs that are out there have a tendency maybe not to be enough to not wind up with a stressed piece of real estate.
Right.
And so, that's why we wound up stacking credits and delevering the property. So we're only selecting buildings that we know we can get through the State Historic Preservation Office, the National Park Service, get on the National Registry. When I saw 1300, 1919, beautiful building.
It's stunning.
I said, oh my gosh, this checks all the boxes. And we're looking for something that's at least 120,000 square feet. So we wind up with at least 100 units, right? And I looked at that building and said, 120 units in Lynchburg, perfect, don't want any more than that. And this building is amazing. And it's going to be easy to get through the National Park Service and get it teed up as a certified historic structure. Okay?
Thank you.
Move for approval. Second. Thank you. Speak to my first. Speak to you. Yes. Again, it did come to Finance Committee. I currently serve with the Housing Authority Board. If you look at the summary there, it's approved by the Housing Authority Board. There's no financial obligations to the city of Lynchburg. There's no financial obligations to the Lynchburg Redevelopment Housing Authority. This is common practice. The property was owned by another company several years ago, and then we didn't hear anything. I did a tour of the building with the company, and nothing happened. I was wondering what happened. And in my first meeting with the Lynchburg Housing Authority Board, they brought this property up, and I was so glad to see it come back up. And this company, your company, now purchased that property, because it has been kind of like an eyesore on the Kemper Street area. Yep. So I'm glad to see your company renovating it. Anytime you see a derelict property, it brings around people that might want to destroy property or break windows, things of that nature. So you want to have abandoned properties there for a long period of time, and it has been there for quite a while. Yes. So I'm glad to see they back on the register. We had talked to the community residents about the apartments coming in. Most were in favor of that. So again, I'm so glad to see that now the projects are getting started, that we can renovate their property and continue to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the finance committee not have a recommendation? They didn't act on this?
I just wanted to get some more information about it.
Okay, so if that is the case, I'm sure we will withdraw. I just didn't want to step on toes.
I just didn't think it was happening. That's why I don't know if it was going on and on. I was just.
If there's any more discussion, we will vote.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just, I think that this, and it's just about due diligence, because I'm not sure what amount of this, the limited amount that we have to do the bond issuance a year, do we have any idea what this is as far as that goes? You know, there's, I think Tom mentioned there's a limited amount we can do with this each year.
So, Councilman Mischins, I am in no way an expert in this, but my understanding is that there's different pools of funds. Again, they're issued through the Virginia Department of Housing Authority. 14% of all of those bonds are set aside for housing authorities. And the idea is that they make these federally tax exempt bonds available to further the missions of the housing authority, which in this instance is to provide affordable housing. There's two pools that I know of. The first pool was a competitive process. It still has to go through the same thing that you're doing today. The second pool, I believe this is not a competitive process. I've learned a lot in a few days on this. But as far as a total amount of bonds that are available, this is the only group that I'm aware of that has come to the Housing Authority this year asking to do this type of project. So to me, in the end, what you end up with is $50 million worth of investment in a vacant building that is deteriorating on Campbell Avenue. That's a win for the city.
And where I'm at, and just to kind of give you I want to see it done, right? And I think it's a great building, and I think it's a great opportunity. But I also want to make sure that we do our due diligence on this, because I wasn't aware until just now that, and I know you've got experience with other properties, but that Astoria itself has 0 delivered projects, and it's not anything other than just doing due diligence and giving staff some additional time to make it, basically kick it to a work session in our next work session so that they can do their due diligence into making sure we feel like when we approve this, that it's actually going to be delivered. And that's the concern that I have with this. And with it, just very, very simple.
And the only response.
Speak to you, Paul.
Finance committee made a motion, council's obligated to act on it tonight. If that fails, that's one thing. But if the finance committee has made a motion, a recommendation to council, we need to consider that. That's my point of order.
Can I just address one thing?
So, Mayor, that needs to be addressed before we engage this any further. I'd point you to the city attorney for his interpretation of it, but it's my understanding that if the finance committee, any committee has made a recommendation to council, we take that up and count at session, regardless if the chair wants to consider that or not.
Yes, we have a discussion.
But I mean, I'm not going to debate a point of order. That's my point of order.
Mr. Attorney.
What I would offer is, Councilman Feraldi is correct, but usually what we see is a motion made by the chair before the city council. So that hasn't happened here this evening. So what I would offer is, certainly the recommendation can be communicated, it can be discussed, but, there still needs to be a motion. If it comes from the committee, then it's doesn't require a second, but that hasn't happened. All we have right now is the motion and a second for approval from other members.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes, sir.
So I need to just ask whether or not, I think good point's been raised. And I don't know that we fully vetted it in finance. I was not there speaking to Mr. White about it, leaned over and asked the developer, would 2 weeks make, time kills deals. I understand that acutely. But what I understood from him is we can be prepared for work session, consider we've come through finance, and be positioned for general business that night. I suspect we're going to move swimmingly through all this, and we'll have all the answers, all the dots, and gives us more time to expose the project and what have you. So if amenable to council, it seems like it's amenable to the property owner. I don't want to speak for you. That 2 weeks to give it its opportunity to kind of work through some of these opportunities, come back at work session and have it ready for the November 12th general business. So.
Now I have a motion.
I'll make a substitute motion.
Okay.
Substitute motion will be that we move this, not table for 2 weeks, that we would move this to the work session and then the following business.
My point of order is I interpret the rules to say that the chair of finance cannot counteract the committee on finance. The finance committee has directed a recommendation. He's obligated to make that recommendation to council. So his motion is out of order. That's my point of order. Then that point of order needs to be addressed before we move on, Mayor. What's the point of having committees if our chairs refuse to do stuff?
Now, you're saying the chair have to make the decision, right?
The point of order is that the chair is obligated to make that recommendation to council. And this motion is out of order because it is contrary to the chair's recommendation that he's obligated to make per the rules.
He's the chair of finance. And
Yeah, I want you to resign personally, but go ahead, sir.
you? Yes.
As a committee chair, and council member hat. So the committee has made a recommendation to city council. So that's been communicated. But it's my understanding that that doesn't bind individual council members to have to make a motion. So certainly there could be a motion, probably shouldn't be contrary to what the committee has directed if he's the chair. But certainly I don't think it binds this council in tabling a matter. If more information is needed, especially if additional information arises during the council meeting, that may be discussed.
So my substitute motion would be to do what the city manager requested, that we move this to the next work session and then the same evening business.
And then if overridden, Mr. Missions can certainly.
What I'm doing, I'm going to agree with the city manager. We're going to table this to the next work session. Well, we're going to move it to the next work session. And then we'll vote on it. I mean,
First, you got to appoint this. That's a point of order.
I did.
So you accept it or reject?
His point of order, saying that Mr. Missions, saying that Mr. Missions is out of order, is out of order.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll second it.
Now, we have a substitute motion on the floor
To do what the city
to
manager.
do what the city manager said do. And second. So let us vote to do.
And just real quick, I just want
No, there's enough discussion.
real quick, so there's just want to real quick.
There's enough discussion.
Okay.
The motion passes 4-2 with one absent. This now becomes the main motion.
Yes, sir. Right.
So this is the second time in these last 2 months where the Committee on Finance has had a blunder or hasn't acted on something, and then it's left council in a quandary. Quite frankly, I think it's pathetic. We never had this issue before. We need to get our act together. This is before us. It's standard procedure. It's nothing we need to delay. I think it's the MO of this council is to create a crisis and then find a solution for said crisis. And I think it's gross. I've asked you personally, I think Marty needs to be removed as finance chair. I reiterate it now. This is a prime example. The business of the city is being delayed because of his inability to govern the Committee on Finance. This was a recommendation from Finance Committee not just a few hours ago, and whatever happened in the last 5 hours, something's changed, and now this is being delayed and people are being impacted. Baloney, and it needs to be addressed.
I heard what Mr. Frawley had to say. There's new information that's come to light. We weren't aware that no projects have been delivered. And I think that that's relevant when we're doing this bond issue, because we want to make sure that the vetting is done properly by staff, that we feel comfortable that this project's actually going to be completed. 2 to 3 weeks delay on a $30 million bond issuance, that's actually being prudent and wise with the decisions we're making, rather than going from Finance Committee directly to the main meeting agenda. And I actually spoke with the city manager prior to this meeting, and he wasn't even aware that this was coming up on the general business agenda tonight after the Finance Committee. So I just think that it's prudent that we pump the brakes a little bit, and I think that we'll be able to deliver this in 2 or 3 weeks in our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to affirm that I see a lot of value in having a project at 1300 Campbell Avenue. I'm very excited about the hopeful trajectory of this project, but I am grateful for an additional 2 weeks since this hasn't come to a work session, and it's coming up with finance and then the general business with the meeting tonight. So I appreciate council's willingness to take that time to work with city staff. I'm calling you tomorrow, so I have some additional questions. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
We've got a clear direction from staff. I'm not sure how it bypassed work session. That's my main concern. I think the Finance Committee did a fine job recommending it, learned additional information, and again, he's not obligated, so I'm glad he spoke freely. And I do want a little bit of breaks on $30 million. I think that is wise. And so that's why I made my second.
Mr. Warren.
Just make sure we're clear. The project was vetted and approved by the Housing Authority Board for the project. So, and we received our packages on Thursday. Seems like if we had questions, we should have contacted Mary Rose at Housing Authority Board to see what questions we had to clarify any points, or even have her be present to talk about the project, or to say was it vetted enough. So I'm a little concerned that we did not go through our package on Thursday and contact them and see we had some concerns about the project before we come to this point and don't approve something. We have the gentleman here. I'm not sure where he even came from, the owner of the property. But anyway, to me, it's not being fair to him. After we've had packages Thursday, we should have contacted the Lynchburg Housing Authority Board and asked her to be the board even to be here. I think Mark Schul is the chair of the board. We should have asked them to be here if we had some concerns about their judgment call on this project. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Discussion is done. Mr. Wilder.
I think at some point also, maybe with Ms. Housing Authority Board, they could explain the bond process to us. Just I think there's some questions about that process. I think we just need to be clarified and understand that even better. Thank you.
Okay.
Finishing the vote now. The motion passes 4-2 with 1 absent. Agenda item number 14, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the naming of a private street located on 1700 Enterprise Drive and accessed from Grand Summit Drive as Water's Edge Circle. This item was discussed during the Physical Development Committee meeting on October 14th.
I will defer to the chair of that committee, Ms. Timmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is simply the naming of a, private road turning into a public road, and it passed PDC unanimously as a recommendation. So with that, I will make a motion that we go ahead and adopt the naming of the street to Water's Edge Circle.
Do we have a second?
We don't need it.
No second. Okay. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Let's vote.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Agenda item number 15. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the FY 2026 City Federal State Aid Fund budget and appropriating $278,000 for the purchase of a bookmobile for the Lynchburg Public Library. This item was discussed during the Finance Committee meeting earlier today.
Committee.
And I think that it's appropriate to bring Beverly Blair up here just because I believe this is the moment that many of you all have been waiting for tonight. Appreciate and I want to thank the work that you all have done to raise these funds. And what this is, just so people understand, is there's no fiscal impact whatsoever to the taxpayers of Lynchburg with this. This was strictly addressed by private donations, a fundraising campaign that you all did a phenomenal job with to raise $278,000 towards the $300,000 goal to purchase a bookmobile. The one question that I have is, am I going to get an opportunity to drive it around once we get it? I'll get it. And I just think that it's a neat concept. I know that earlier Councilmember Timmer had mentioned the idea of doing pop-up libraries. So this is kind of something that is even better because now they can pop up anywhere, right? So appreciate the work you guys have done. And I just wanted to thank you. That's why I asked you to come up for taking this on. And with that, I will make a motion to approve this. Again, this is no impact to the citizens' bottom line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Mr. Beamer.
I would like to say I grew up with bookmobiles. My mom was made sure I was a regular visitor of bookmobiles, and literacy is a critical issue. Ms. Reed, a fellow councilwoman, is not here tonight to speak on it, but she would, I guarantee you, talk about how critical literacy is and getting our kids to read. And I will try to support her idea in her absence, that is so critical for the citizens and especially the children of Lynchburg. So thank you for all the people who contributed out of their personal funds to make this happen. And thank you all for your patience staying around tonight.
Mr. Wilder.
Yes, again, thank you all for working so hard for this project. And I was at a United Way presentation yesterday morning, and I was saying this is part of Lynchburg that I love, is the caring part. Sometimes I see other pieces that are so challenging in our community, but I see the caring part of Lynchburg that pull resources together. We understand the importance that every child learn how to read by the 3rd grade, and this makes it more accessible to kids in all parts of our community, that they have access to reading material. And thank you all for doing it for our children. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more discussion? Cast your vote.
Initiating the vote now. Vice Mayor. The motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent. Agenda item number 16. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the FY 2026 City Federal State Aid Fund budget and appropriating $45,675 to fund speed enforcement activities and equipment. This item was discussed during the Finance Committee meeting earlier today.
I defer to the chair of that committee, Mr. Missions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier in the Finance Committee, Police Chief Ken Edwards brought to us a grant of $30,450 for speed enforcement activities that requires a $15,225 match from the Police Department General Fund budget, which gets you to the total amount that Alicia had mentioned earlier, which is the $45,675 to fund speed enforcement activities and equipment. It's going to purchase some radar and LiDAR equipment and then also fund some of those activities. This is something that is built into our police department's operating budget, so the fiscal impact is already accounted for. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Just like to affirm really quickly, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank you first for being able to talk to Captain Hinckley and your outreach as we've been discussing speed enforcement. I don't need to pull you up. I just want to thank you and say this is a great use for the funds. I've had citizens reach out about concerns with speed enforcement and those various elements, and you've been very responsive. So thank you to that, and thank you for the diligence and this funding going in that direction. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
It's my chance to, in case you missed it in work session today, I don't know if you were there or not, but I'd love to have you over there, and thank you for what you do. Okay, great.
Any more discussion? Now let's vote, please.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6-1 with one absent. Agenda item number 17. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the FY 2026 City Federal State Aid Fund budget and appropriating $21,105 to fund DUI enforcement activities, equipment, and training. This item was discussed during the Finance Committee meeting. Again, that was earlier today.
Yes, and I defer to the chairman of the committee, Mr. Missions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to the other one that we just did, this is something that they do annually, I believe, right? And it'll fund specific training, and it's a match that's required of $7,035 from the department's general fund operating budget that's been accounted for, and it's going to provide a total of $21,105 to fund enforcement activities, equipment, and training as it relates to DUIs. So I think that's great. Appreciate the work you've all done putting this together, and I motion for approval.
No? Cast your votes, please.
There we go. Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with one absent. Agenda item number 18. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the FY 2026 City Federal State Aid Fund budget and appropriating $71,032 to fund equipment for the fire department. This item was discussed during the Finance Committee meeting earlier today.
I defer to the chair, Mr. Missions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual application to the Rescue Squad Assistance Fund grant, and it's going to require $35,516 in matching funds for a total appropriation of $71,032. And it's going to purchase extension ramps for our bariatric stretcher, which is a stretcher for people that are larger, and it provides a safer way for our providers to load those stretchers into the back of ambulances that protects them and from injury, and also it's safer for the patient as well. So I appreciate that. And then also a LifePak 35 cardiac monitor and defibrillator. That's what these funds will purchase, and I will motion for approval.
Is there any more discussion? Discussion? Let's vote, please.
Initiating the vote now. It is not showing up, but the motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
Show up when you read.
You all voted in the affirmative. That I can say.
There it is.
Yay, okay. Agenda item number 19. Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the City of Lynchburg's 2026 legislative agenda. This item was discussed during council's business item briefings on October 14th. Ms. Braun will walk you through your revisions.
Yeah.
Consider the second reading for the Central Virginia Alliance for Community Living, just so they can get out of here, because this is probably going to take a minute.
Yes.
This will, it's a lot of fun. I'll get back.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. Great idea.
Yes.
And I'll motion to approve that.
Motion. Who's second? Second.
So just to be clear, the motion is second reading and consideration of adopting ordinance 025-073, approving the funding for the Central Virginia Alliance for Community Living in the amount of $25,000. So the second reading of that. That's the motion that I make for approval. And just to clarify, we did address this in the Finance Committee today, that the expectation is that from the unassigned fund balance that we'll get with our current comprehensive annual financial report when that comes out, that this will be topped off in this fiscal year. So we would return those $25,000 right back to that.
Very sorry, I was couldn't be in 2 places at once. I see that you motioned. Was there a second that I missed? Thank you very much.
You want to speak to your second?
This is to move it, or is this to approve it?
Approve the second reading.
Okay. No, I definitely agree. As long as we're putting the money back in, I think we're good. So let's vote.
Please cast your vote.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 5-1 and 1 absent. All right, and now back to our 2026 legislative agenda.
So thanks for having me back. I am totally your meat event tonight. Just moving right into it, you guys were briefed on the majority of these items on your October 14th work session. Notes, additions, anything that was added during the meeting, you'll kind of see these noted on here. Each item will be up on the screen like they were before with applicable notes. And then I spoke with the clerk of council and the mayor prior to, and the hope is that we are in some kind of consensus so that I can get this on there, and if not, that each individual item would be on a vote. So I'll look to you guys and go from there. Any items with charter changes will be highlighted. Changes and additional information will all be on the right-hand side of each slide, and then obviously not. Removed items will be noted. There are 22 items we are going to roll right through. So this is the expanding zoning authority. There are no changes from your previous one. We don't like?
So we're going to do individual up and down votes on this, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So to yes to keep, no to get rid of it.
So
Yeah, to be clear, we could do this one of 2 ways. The one would be go through each item, and then you guys say yes, no. If there's not a consensus, we would look for a motion, second, and vote. And at the end of all of that, you would vote on your legislative package after all the votes have been taken, or Ms. Braun could go through the whole presentation, and then we can come back to them. We do think maybe the first option would be the easiest.
Saying as well as like a slight deviation, and it just makes it easier unless we all insist on motioning and seconding. If we vote yes, it's to include it. If we vote no, it's not.
Correct.
And just vote on each and don't worry about seconds and motions. Just take them up as as a list. Does that make sense? Like that way we don't have to be motioning and seconding all the time.
I incorporated all of your ideas. I'm hopefully I did a great, no, let me put it this way. I know I did a great job. Hopefully y'all agree. I'm just kidding. So for this one, is everybody okay? We like the expanding the zoning authority. Yes, yay.
Wait, hold
Go-
on.
go ahead.
I'm not tracking here. Are we voting to include them tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So are we doing that per each one or at
Yes.
the end?
Looking for consensus on each one. If there's no
I want a
consensus.
vote
we
on
can
each
vote.
one.
Okay.
So that's you won't have consensus then.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying, don't worry about motions or seconds. Just if you want it in, vote yes. If you don't, vote no. If it passes, it passes. If it fails, it fails. And then if someone wants to speak to it, the mayor can certainly recognize it.
Well, then if we're going to do that, second, because that's how we vote.
Well, I'm just saying, for the purposes of this, again, the rules do stipulate, we're allowed to adopt rules from time to time for expediting our process. That's all.
So is really just, do we keep in on all? So that wouldn't necessarily be your motion. It would just be you all doing the voice vote or call for, do we keep this in? Yes or?
But I think the goal here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to get a recorded vote on each one. And in order to do that, I think we really should follow our rules and have a motion in a second. And I think that would be, I think we could do that efficiently. I don't think that would be an issue.
You could say, yeah, I move to keep whoever wants, and I move to keep it in.
If we want, it's just going to be, it's not needed, but okay.
It does look like there's consensus on this item, I will say.
So I'll make a motion to approve the expanding zoning authority.
Cool.
And Mayor, if I may request, I would just submit that if someone's proposed something, let them be the one to be able to motion for it if we're going to be motioning. Thank you.
Someone propose something. If it's yours.
Okay.
Councilmember Giraldi, does that mean you motion for this one?
No, they can have it. That's
Okay,
fine.
cool.
Is anybody opposed to doing voice votes?
Yes.
Just to make it quicker.
We can do it.
I hear an opposition.
Yeah, good. We got one in opposition against voice vote.
Okay, this is, I'm going to initiate the vote now to keep this item in.
I'm sitting here looking at the screen.
Something, I'll have to reinitiate that.
I didn't.
Okay, there we go. Try it now.
Vote again.
Mhm.
Okay.
There we go. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
Moving on, this one was removed during your work session. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. It's not in there. Moving along, investment, we wanted to add the addition of gold into the investment opportunities. So the change reads in the title, but it also reads in, if you look at the second line, it just says addition of cryptocurrency and gold as part of a diversified financial portfolio.
Speaking briefly, all I'll say is this, it does put very, very stringent requirements on this. So it's not long-term investment. It's within a confined amount of time that localities would be able to explore this. So with that in mind, let's do it.
I think that it's an interesting proposal. I don't think that it's as risky as it may be represented if you're looking at some of the options that are out there, so to speak. There are options that are very risky, without a doubt, when it comes to cryptocurrency. There are options that are less risky, and gold is not risky at all. So I appreciate the thought that Mr. Feraldi put into this and support it.
All right, initiate the vote now to keep it in. Motion passes 5-1 and 1 absent.
Opposition to mandatory collective bargaining. This just what the additions were, the right to work affirmation. And then this is in general rewritten to support local, not grown, local economic growth and employee choice. So this was Mr. Feraldi, and the enhancements or changes were made during the work session conversation.
Can I move approval?
Second.
Second.
Any more discussion? No discussion?
I was just going to say that I think it's a horrible idea for Virginia to impose that on localities. So just want to put that out there.
Cast your votes, please.
Initiating the vote now. Motion passes 5-1 and 1 absent.
This is the local option to elect a school board. Does require a charter amendment. This is reworded just to really button up the language around the charter amendment. After the highlighted area charter amendment, it just explains it a little further, and then brings in conversation just to make sure that it is as plain as day for the conversations in the work session.
Hmm.
And yes, it requires a charter amendment. Sorry.
I would submit, this is an oversight on my part, so I own it. The intention here was to not have council de facto create an elected school board, but call for a referendum.
Okay.
So I wanted to clarify that's my fault. I misread it, and then I misread it, whatever it might be. So it's the intention here that it would call for a referendum, whether or not there should be an elected school board. So that's the intent here. With that in mind, unless council specifically wants us to narrow it down even further and get that in writing, I would move for approval. As amended.
Councilman Frall, just so I understand for purposes of our records, is the idea that the General Assembly would enact a law that allows localities or the city to do an ordinance to be able to call for a referendum.
Yes.
Or writ of election for a referendum.
Yes, and I would actually further submit, if the concern is regarding the charter, I would remove the charter language and I would make it a law for all localities that if they want to be able to do it, their local governing body can request by an act of the local governing body a referendum. So as amended, that's my motion.
A second, Ms. Timmer. Well, you looked as if you had something to say.
Applying it in another context of something that I want to do. So I was reframing. I'm not seconding or speaking to it.
Okay, without a second, it would die. So this one would not be included.
Expanding transportation funding beyond major Virginia cities. This has been expanded to include the smart scale funding formula. The formula generally emphasizes congestion and heavy traffic volume. So these are areas that favor major metropolises. The request would support reforming the smart scale funding formula to focus on projects that improve roadway safety, economic development, multimodal access, economic connectivity, multimodal access, and bridge maintenance. So that's just been a little bit more descriptive in here from where it previously came.
So moved.
I just want to thank you for the additional information and building out what that would look like and how that applies in the formula. It's really resourceful and I'm in favor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to speak to you? Mr. Wilder, you have anything? Okay. Let us vote, please.
All right, initiating the vote now. Councilmember Feraldi. There it goes. Motion passes 6 and 1 absent.
This is the voter support call. This is no changes, save for the bottom. There were requests in the work session that I failed to mention on the right-hand side here. If you look right underneath early voting and election day operations, numbers 1 and 2 discuss increasing the amount of money funded to the locality for increased hours, and then also reduces the number of early voting days to lessen the burden on the locality, both of which were suggestions in the work session. So I lied on the no changes, and there are changes.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I would move with striking the words about 3/4 way through and governing body. I think Mr. Mr. Levy made a good point, and I agree with him, and I would move as amended.
Mr. Frialdi, can I bring one thing to your attention, please?
No.
Okay.
What do you want?
At the top as well, it mentions the city's elected body. I just want to be clear that you want both of them stricken.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Where are you looking?
If you look down at the third, like literal third line towards the right-hand side, it says shared by the city's elected body, the local government.
I would include that, yes.
Yes, okay.
As to be removed.
So I'm clear, the motion that I'm seconding is adopting this as is, but removing any reference to the local governing body or elected body getting involved in this oversight, so to speak. Is that interpreting that, Mr. Feraldi, is that correct?
Mayor, I would reply by saying yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll second that.
There's no more discussion? Ms. Timmer?
I just want to affirm that I gladly support election integrity efforts and appreciate Mr. Feraldi's amendment in light of Mr. Levy's comments. I think that's excellent and in support with the amended changes. Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
And he's not here anymore, I don't think, but I want to thank Mr. Levy for coming and letting us know that this evening, because I think that was very helpful.
No more discussion? Let's vote, please.
Initiating the vote now.
Mr. Feraldi?
It popped up. Yes. I thought.
The motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This next one is the opposition to mandated energy requirements without locality input. There are no changes to this one.
Second.
Any discussion? Cast your votes, please.
Sorry, this is not me. All right, initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This next one is the reinstatement of mandatory minimums. There are no changes to this as was briefed in your work session.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, Mayor.
No discussion? Cast your votes.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 5-1 and 1 absent.
This next one is the removal of appointed school board members. The edits to this were that the section has been modified to incorporate some feedback from Lynchburg City Schools leadership. With this proposal, the city council would encourage the LCS board to determine a new process and to be approved by both bodies. If this change is intended for just the city of Lynchburg only, it will require a charter change. If not, if it's for the Commonwealth and the best of their for the benefit of the Commonwealth, it will not require a charter change.
Mr. Feraldi?
All right, so number one, I would submit that this should be for any of the remaining localities that have an appointed school board. So that removes the charter requirement. Number two, with respect to our friends up the hill in the school division, I don't care what they think. We appoint them, which means we should have the ability to remove them if they're not doing their job. That doesn't mean we're getting into the weeds and saying you need to vote this or vote that or appoint. If the president appoints somebody, he has the ability to remove. That's how I see it. And I think we need to have that ability. And I think it's critically important. So with that in mind, I would move as amended, which is that it would include the remaining 12 localities that if they have an appointed school board, the local governing body is able to remove them. And then none of the extra stuff related to them agreeing. That's my motion.
Can I ask for clarification, please? The piece here, the proposal about the school board determining a new process with you, strike that.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
And that's my motion.
Any more discussion?
Looking for a second.
Looking for a second. Anybody's gonna second this?
Motion fails or dies.
This next one is the abolishment of the office of the treasurer. This section has been rewritten to further illustrate the sponsor's intention and clarify the outcome. The process structure would strengthen the checks and balances system in the billing, collecting, and management of taxpayer funds, and provide direct accountability to city council. This would require a charter change, and charter change is light compared to what it actually will require.
Mr. Ferrari.
Okay, so this is very simple. Can anyone here tell me what the treasurer does? Ma'am.
The city's treasurer is responsible to collect state income taxes, mostly like quarterly payments, that type of thing go through the treasurer's office. Also, well, really any state income taxes that are paid by city citizens. He collects the state cigarette tax.
Can I ask you a question on that? So is that on your state income tax? Is that the income tax that would go to the locality or to the state?
No, this is state income taxes.
Sorry, and the next?
And he collects the cigarette and sells cigarette tax stamps that, for the state. The Billings and Collections Office under me does the local cigarette taxes, and he also pays jurors.
So the treasurer in the city of Lynchburg pays jurors, processes tobacco tax stamps,
Cigarette.
and processes paperwork related to income tax.
He processes all the state income taxes that come through the city. So
anything else?
So if you owe on your state income tax, you would make your check payable to the treasurer.
And he's a pass-through.
Yes,
So paperwork.
to the state.
Yeah. Here's my point, and thank you, Donna. I appreciate that.
Those are his main responsibilities.
Here's my point. That position pays close to $90,000 and has a deputy. Are we telling our citizens and the Commonwealth of Virginia that that's worth the $200-something thousand with insurance and all that? The work that's being done, it'd be a really interesting FOIA request maybe to get how often that door to the treasurer's office has been opened. Mayor, it's a really interesting question.
Go ahead, Mr. Ferrari.
Thank you. Because they do have their own system to get inside, actually. And my point is this. What does the treasurer actually do that our finance team couldn't do for more cost-effective savings? What does the treasurer do that we couldn't roll into the city department, give council direct oversight, and eliminate a deputy position that the city's taking on that the state doesn't pay for? And so I submit to council, like other localities have done this already, where the treasurer is just not needed in the city. Counties are a little bit different. So that's my point with proposing this. I don't see there to be a great need. I have respect for our current treasurer. I know he's outgoing, and that's why I've waited to propose this. I didn't want to ruffle feathers, but considering where we're at with an election and all those things, I started really to dig into what does the treasurer actually do day to day? Is it a 40-hour work job? Doesn't sound like it. I don't think it's worth $90,000 and a deputy. I'll put it that way. So with that, I motion for approval.
Mr. Attorney, isn't the treasurer of the city of Lynchburg a constitutional office?
Yes, sir. Set by the Constitution for all localities, independent localities anyways, like counties and cities.
Mayor, that haven't abdicated those responsibilities in some capacity. Other localities have done this. So, for what it's worth.
Sir.
Mental health and wellness, this is new. This has been written to support legislation expanding access to mental health services and support for funding to come from the state, not the burden of the locality. Mr. Frawley, this is you.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Discussion? Cast your vote.
Can you vote now? The motion passes and you all are officially halfway across.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. All right, this one is reevaluating the human services funding. This has no changes.
Mr.
Mayor, when I learned that we are compensated by the state for human services funding based on population and not caseload. And then I also learned that the city of Lynchburg is funded, basically we have the same caseload as Virginia Beach, the city of Virginia Beach, which is the largest city in the Commonwealth. So Virginia Beach gets Virginia Beach funding for Lynchburg caseload, and Lynchburg gets Lynchburg funding based on population for Lynchburg caseload, basically. So it's really not a, I hate to use this term, but equitable distribution of those funds. And I do think that it's important that we have our delegation look into this and see what other options are out there, because our human services department is very busy. They do a tremendous amount of work, and it's also a good investment from a local taxpayer perspective, because it's about 17 cents on the dollar, roughly, I think is usually what it comes out to be. So we only pay about 17% of the total for the budget for human services out of local funds. So I would love to see an opportunity to reevaluate this funding and have our local delegation take that forward. It may look like a study. It may look like whatever it may be to start that process. I don't think it'll happen overnight, but I'll make it as a motion that we add this to our package.
Second. Discussion. Discussion. Cast your vote.
All right, initiating the vote now. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This next one is school choice funding. This is new, technically new this year, but from our 2025 legislative agenda, and I have reworded it to support promotion of school choice funding to allow the parent or guardian to select the school that they choose, and the supportive funding to follow.
Discussion, Monty.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think it's pretty simple. I think that parents, regardless of where they come from, should have an opportunity to send their child to the school of their choice. I'll always stand firm behind that. And I think the taxpayer dollars that are out there for children to go to school should follow the child to the school of their parents' choice that works best for their family. So I'll make that as a motion.
Was there a second?
Second.
Awesome.
Any more discussion? No discussion? Cast your vote.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 5-1 and 1 absent.
This next one is the modernization of fire programs, new asterisk, because from our 2025 legislative agenda. This is supporting legislation that reauthorizes and modernizes the Commonwealth's fire program and their funding structure. We'd realign this to be closer to the HB 599, that one that everybody's familiar with that is used with police law enforcement.
Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. There's one of the things that you have in Virginia that's unique is when you go into a lot of these counties and rural areas, you have these volunteer departments and the funding through rescue squad assistance funds and things like that is very different when you then take a look at what's available to a city government like we have with a 24-hour, 365 day a week, full-time professional fire service. And let me tell you right now, when you call 911 and you live in the city, it is a huge difference in what you get and the response time. The training of the providers, the training of the firefighters, and the whole 9 yards. It is, I know the police officers appreciate it when they need firefighters and EMS providers that we have the Lynchburg Fire Department, but Virginia's still got an antiquated system for funding that hasn't really caught up with how law enforcement is funded. One example that recently came to my attention is the ballistic protection that our firefighters wear. Currently, our firefighters in Lynchburg are riding around with expired level 3A ballistic protection. And in law enforcement, you've got an actual grant program with a ballistic vest replacement program where you're getting a certain amount every year. And there isn't anything like that for the fire service. These guys go into the same dangerous environments. They respond to the same shooting scenes that police officers are. Sometimes the shooters are not apprehended yet. There's still a danger of being shot, and currently all of our ballistic vests in the Lynchburg Fire Department are expired. So I think it's important that we modernize that funding, even if it's just for that aspect, to try to make sure that we're doing the best we can to take care of our firefighters and EMS providers and put them in the great protective gear that is in date. So I'll make it as a motion.
Second, we'll speak to you, sir. Anyone else? Cast your votes, please.
Initiating the vote now. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This one is expanding the residency restrictions for convicted sex offenders. I fully understand the way this is listed out here, but I just wanted to make sure that I represented both the sponsors here. This is new, the request to amend the code, the Virginia code, in proximities to schools and daycares and other child-oriented facilities. I took a stab in the dark here and increased it by 500 feet. I'm obviously, please whatever direction you'd like, but this is allowing a buffer also in areas with the walkability brought forward by Vice Mayor Deemer.
Mr. Deemer, let's speak to it.
Yeah, I appreciate your work on this. I'm fully in favor of the number you came up with. That's great. And anything that protects the children in Lynchburg, I'm pulling for it. So I hope we'll support this, please.
Second.
I'll second it.
Let's speak to it.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just think that, we need to take a look at sensitive areas, specifically schools, daycares, things like that, where we've got children and it's, we need to consider, making sure that we've got restrictions that protect them and think of their families. And I think this is a smart one.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent, and you all are moving into 16 of 22.
We can do this, guys. Okay, so this is the comprehensive pre-K and transitional kindergarten brought to you by council members Mischins and Reed, and a special thank you to Mrs. Mischins for her input. It was really helpful. So this is brand new. This request incorporates council members' requests along with some feedback from the Lynchburg City School leadership team. City Council is requesting legislation to establish a comprehensive pre-K and transitional kindergarten early readiness program. The program would enhance already working measures and add a parental guardianship readiness program that would help the learning at home prior to them getting there. And this investment would help ensure that kindergarten students begin the closest, the same starting line as possible. I know that I did my absolute best, but Mr. Missions, you had mentioned some areas that you'd like some enforcement. And I think I captured what you wanted, but I'm open to.
Mr. Mission?
Sure. Show me the point that you put the enforcement in, if you don't mind.
So, designing a program, equipping families the best way that I possibly could, putting the focus on the literacy, engaging the parents, kind of just, it's less.
Okay.
Yep.
So, all right,
Okay.
so I can speak to that now.
Okay.
I was having I'm gonna be pretty,
There's a lot
gonna
of
be,
words in here.
yeah, there's a lot.
A lot of words.
So here's what it comes down to. I'm no expert in this, but I'll take a stab at it. My wife is an expert in this, and I hear what she has to say all the time about this issue. And, you know, some kids with minimal early childhood education are ready for kindergarten at 4 years old, and some, like one of ours, wasn't ready at 5 with years of early childhood education. And there needs to be kind of a one-on-one approach to making sure that the kids, when they get to kindergarten, are ready for it, and that there's options when they're not, which is what this transitional program would do. And I think she speaks to how that is really what makes a difference in success, is that they're ready for kindergarten when they get there. And then also looking at options if they get through kindergarten, but they're really not ready for first grade. There are also transitional programs going into first grade that are out there. And that's kind of the missing link in to look at how can we, I think the term might be retain. You know, right now, I don't think they're allowed to retain children back if they're in kindergarten and they're going to first grade, unless the parents say, let's hold them back in kindergarten next year. You can't do that, but that might be the best for the child. And I know that there's different conversations to have around that, but I think that there should be a greater emphasis specifically, and you mentioned educating families and parents on, it shouldn't be ever considered a bad thing, especially early on, if you've got to hold a child back in kindergarten, first, second grade, something like that, because what we do to set them up for success in those early years, you've got to have that foundation. And that's really what this is all about. So I appreciate the work that you put into this. I appreciate the work that Councilmember Reed put into this. And I'm getting ready to make a motion, but you look like you want to interject something.
I want to make sure that I put this in there. So if you want a motion as it is, obviously your prerogative. This is your Christmas list. The piece that I want to talk about is what you just, would you like the addition of stricter retention to be added, or do you like it as it is? You mentioned quite a bit, so I don't want that. That's not in there.
So I want the legislature to look at, you know, is there something we can do to you know, maybe figure out a way to retain these kids, or to create, even if it's just an awareness program to just, parents need to know the benefits, that it's not necessarily a bad thing if the teacher and the principal come to them and say, you know what, your child is not ready for first grade. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'll motion to approve with an amendment to whatever language
How
you're
about a
going to use to
consideration?
capture that.
Okay, how about a consideration to readdress the qualifying graduation?
It isn't even that, it's just a
Not from high school, just from kindergarten to first grade.
yeah, it's really just looking at retention standards, because I think right now they're not even allowed to do it without parental approval. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So
Got it.
I'll trust your wordsmithing on it.
Consideration of new retention standards, and we'll take it from there. And I'll get you something, but yes, with those edits.
Thank you. So I'll motion approval for that.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This next one is the introduction to a pilot literacy program brought to you by Councilmember Reed. There is an already in place Virginia Literacy Act. So after discussions with Councilmember Reed, the changes reflected here and encompassing feedback from the Lynchburg City Schools leadership team, it would be enhancements of the requests of the already in place program, highlighting the things that have already been done well, but really pushing forward what the literacy program would like to do. This request would include cooperation with the VDOE and, of course, with hiring reading teachers and instructional aides to help support academics first.
I'll make a motion to approve on that one, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Whichever, that's fine.
speak to your motion.
I don't have anything to add. I appreciate the changes you made and the updates. Thank you.
Mr. Wilder?
I just want to make sure that both of these, I'm trying to get in, but
Yep.
so fast. Did both of these get input from the school system?
Yes, sir.
Are they on board with both of these requests?
Yes, sir. So both include input from the Lynchburg City Schools leadership team. I'll work with them as well, like throughout this whole process to make sure that we're all staying on the same page. The one thing that they emphasized was academics first, and everything else was, I'm so tired now at this point. So sorry. Let me just put it this way, academics first. That's what they emphasize. So whatever supports the kids becoming, educated and active members of society, that's what they are for.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I don't have anything else to add. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Your votes, please.
Initiating the vote now. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
Okay, this next one is amendments to close the gaps around the use of marijuana. I had a lot of help. The changes to this item kind of close the gaps a little bit further and continue to separate away from this request is separating a little bit further around, away from tobacco use, which was our catalyst sort of before. Changes to this include school buses, any motor vehicle where a child is physically present, adding new language that asks the state to elevate this offense from a class 4 to a class 1 and treat said offense as abuse or neglect. This is intended to provide officers with clear statutory authority to intervene when marijuana is in use or residue is present, occupying the same space as a minor. So I am not the expert on this. If you guys have questions, I would love to get them to you.
Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ferrari, you want to speak? You had your hand up first. But you were slow to speak. Thank you. Mr. Missions?
Thank you. I think that these gaps are important to close. I appreciate the inclusion of the school buses specifically on here, because if you don't understand that that's a problem, it really is. And I've actually heard of a situation with kids smoking marijuana in a bus on the way to elementary school in Lynchburg. And that's, we don't need that, right? We don't need that. The only thing, we don't need it in buses, but I think this would be great to do, and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Mr. Ferrari?
Oh, no, we're talking plane. Let's go.
Okay, Ms. Timmer?
I just want to say thank you for adding the presumptive limit in there. That's really resourceful for me in supporting this, and I appreciate that addition. Thank you.
Mr. Dean?
Yeah, I second to this because this morning I witnessed a father at a school bus stop lit up a marijuana and just smoked right in front of his kids, and I know this is a serious issue, and you want the best for these kids. There's tough situations out there. Hopefully, the General Assembly will come up with some good ideas to try to strengthen protection of children.
Cast your votes, please.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. We are moving on to number 19.
This is workforce development program. So in full transparency, you did not hear about this at your work session. The mayor brought it to my attention at a later date, and I want to make sure that you guys are all aware of all of this. So please read it as a new item. The city council would support legislation to direct the Commonwealth to both fund and implement a workforce development placement program, or placement programs, excuse me. This would be a state-supported, so that means financially as well, integrated age-appropriate career development opportunities into the standards of learning. Each school division would develop a workforce program that partners with regional businesses and trade associations to create apprenticeship experiences. The performance metrics would track outcomes and align instructors with labor market needs. Guys, I'm really excited about this one.
As somebody with 2 high schoolers, I'd like to make the motion to approve this and get it done as quick as we can before they get out of high school.
Discussion.
That's all I got.
Mr.
Yeah. The mayors as well. We've got some great kids, but we need to transition them into jobs and careers and home ownership and just the skills that they need to succeed and to build a family. Workforce development is SOL. It should be, I'm not sure how it even didn't end up in the SOLs a long time ago. But this is great. Let's encourage our General Assembly to do the right thing and get our kids working.
Ms. Timmer?
Hi, just thank you, Mr. Mayor, for putting this forward. I know that this has been near and dear to your heart in a number of ways and huge supporter of it, huge supporter of trade development in the schools, but thank you for your leadership on it.
Out of poverty. Cast your votes, please.
Initiating the vote now. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
We are on Ms. Timmer's items, which means we are in the home stretch, guys. Okay, this is the reevaluation of the standards of quality for the school funding formula. There are no changes here that you've seen from your work session.
And I'll move for approval.
Second.
Um,
Discussion.
Yeah, just to speak to it briefly, essentially the current formula doesn't account for wealth disparity. Lynchburg ranks in that. And so this would evaluate whether it incorporates the Gini index or other aspects to that formula that would account for wealth disparity within the community, hopefully yielding greater funding to Lynchburg.
Speak to your second part.
Yeah, no, I think appreciate you taking working on this one. I think it's important because I think there's also been situations in the past where they've used the same formula to try to steer money elsewhere and out of communities like Lynchburg, and we need to just stay on top of the General Assembly to make sure that we are getting appropriate funding for our public schools.
Anyone else? Cast your votes.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent.
This next item is zoning reevaluation for transitional housing. There are no changes from what you've seen in your work space, except for the radius of 10 miles of a school zone. We went back and forth on that one. You want to take it out?
Take that out.
Take that out. You got it. Yep. So with that change then.
Yep.
So what is it?
We're removing the radius, just the radius. There would be no radius. We would take that whole last line out. Just changing the transitional housing.
So Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
So if I read this right, to allow restrictions on recovery and transitional housing based on the fact that they're seeking help, we're going to restrict that? Is that what we're doing?
May I speak to my item?
Mayor, I'm,
Let him finish.
if we're removing that, is that what would read? Like blanket, we're asking the General Assembly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Is it helpful to have the sponsor offer more of a clarity that I can help jot down, or just, I guess explaining what I understood this to be is not going to be
I'll
helpful?
put it this way, and whoever wants to keep going with it is fine. I don't believe we are allowed to discriminate based off of a disability, which this would constitute.
I hear you.
And in real estate, that's a big no-no. And in local government, I think it's even worse insofar as the risk. So I do not think we should include this at all.
Ms. Timmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The discussion with Ms. Braun and also with Delegate Walker was essentially that the localities would retain zoning authority when it comes to these types of facilities. And so the state licensure component doesn't override what our current zoning requirements are. So if we have a threshold of number of individuals who live in a housing unit, that sort of thing, we retain that local authority. So it's not to discriminate on a particular unit or a particular need or disability. It's really just to retain components of that local zoning authority. And if we need to reword it in order to kind of wordsmith it to reflect that more appropriately, that was the discussion that I had with Delegate Walker.
Mayor,
Mr. Ferrari?
I would respond and not suggest. We read what's before us, says council seeks an addendum to the code allowing locality to establish by ordinance restrictions on neighborhood residential reentry centers, community reentry programs, transitional housing, recovery residents, sober living homes, and supportive housing regarding drug and alcohol use. So I appreciate what was just offered, but that's not what's before us. And if we're voting on this, this is a big problem. We should not adopt it.
Ms. Timmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Mr. Feraldi with the language component. So I don't know if that's something that we want to address now, timeframe, or table to the next, how we need to address that. But I do stand by the original intent in the conversation with Delegate Walker.
I don't want to go before them. I just,
And you're great. Thank you for your work on this. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Deemer?
Yeah, if she's amenable to put it back in, I kind of agree with Mr. Fung. And putting that back in, I think addresses his concern. And it should pass pretty easily once we do that. So go back to the original without the removal of the 10-mile zone.
No, I don't want the 10-mile zone in there. No, that's, yeah. No, I'm looking to adjust the language in, because Mr. Feraldi's correct. He's correct in bringing this up. I'm looking to adjust the language where it retains the local zoning authority. And yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So at the beginning, we did discuss, it was brought forward by Councilmember Feraldi, expanding zoning authority. And that addresses the concerns that you have. And I can combine them together so that Mr. Feraldi's intention, which this is part of your legislative package at this point, but Mr. Feraldi's intention is to keep and retain your zoning authority here.
Right.
So I can add these two together, make it a co-sponsored item, and then just also include facilities utilized for residential reentry centers.
Mr. Feraldi, would you be amenable to that?
It is not from an adversarial position, Mayor, but I would say no, because the language I looked to include in the package was far more general and not so specific. So if this is going to be one itemized, I would suggest it be its own item, Mayor.
Then I can rewrite it to be similar to what Mr. Feraldi, so similar to Mr. Feraldi's original one too, where it is broad, but addresses these concerns that you have here.
Yeah, to retain local authority in this matter, because it is a zoned component, like it is something that is addressed through zoning elements. So we would just retain that authority locally is essentially the distinction that I'm trying to create.
Mr. Mason?
I think I might have a solution to this. The solution would be to strike the word restrictions and replace it with specific use standards, I think. Because I pulled up the code section right here. Mr. City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the goal here is for us to have the ability to retain the ability to impose specific use standards, similar to, like saying they can't be within 500 feet of a school zone, or they can't, things of that nature that we already have for a variety of different land uses in our zoning ordinance. I think that the goal is just to make it clear in the section of the code here that's referenced, which is assisted living facilities and group homes of 8 or fewer single-family residents, that we can impose specific use standards on those specific. Does that make sense?
You can do that. That's a tough code section.
Sure.
Because really what that is it's somewhat of a state code safe harbor. It might be worth also considering, if you all are open to it, maybe requesting, like you had said, strengthening locality zoning requirements, or lessening the stringent requirements under 15-2291 specific to group homes.
What would be your suggestion? Because I think you've heard what the goal here is to basically have that.
I don't know if I would put locality established by ordinance. I would probably say to have the General Assembly review the possible amendment of 15.2-2291 to lessen, some of the stringent requirements that are specific to granting the ability of group homes to be able to have locations, or strengthening, as Ms. Timmer had mentioned, strengthening the localities to have the ability to regulate through zoning group homes under 2291. That might be a way to do it, because that is a very tough code section, and the way it was designed was to be somewhat of a safe harbor.
Ms. Timmer.
I would like to accept that as an amendment. Mr. Mission's suggestion, and then go ahead and move for approval. I don't see this as inherently discriminatory. I think the language components are right, and that adjustment, I really feel addresses that issue.
So which specific adjustment are we talking?
The change in the language of restrictions to specific use standards.
Against it, because I don't want to send her a bad message, and I've heard about 6 different messages, and we still don't have anything on paper or written, so I can't really get into it.
It is the, oh my God, this is the 18th. I have it written down. It's the 18th from 6 to 8.
Mayor, I would suggest you take a vote on this and we move to the next item.
I haven't. So you made a motion to accept the specific use standard. I think that actually fixes it for me, because I believe that we're already allowed to do it. So I'm going to second that. So we're striking the word restrictions and replacing that with specific use standards.
And can I go ahead and reread it so that it's in the record appropriately?
So I'm just going to, and then we're striking a radius of 10 miles of.
And that's not,
Ms. Litchie,
that's not in.
you can read it and we can vote.
Yep, I'm going to reread it so it's official, and then that you'll vote on the one that I'm reading.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. The Lynchburg City Council requests an addendum to the Code of Virginia, Title 15.2, Sections 15.2-2291, allowing the locality to establish by ordinance specific use standards on the neighborhood residential reentry centers, community reentry programs, residential housing, recovery residents, sober living homes, and supportive housing regarding drug and alcohol abuse support.
Near and around the school zone.
I thought we didn't want that.
Okay, yeah. Good.
So,
Yeah.
so around abuse support, period.
Good. All right. Yeah, I'm good with that. Yep.
So motion second.
With the way that we read it, just
The
way you just read
it
it.
was.
and that would be,
First and a second, let's vote.
I will write it down. And
I'm sorry, I heard residential. Okay, I see. All right. Making sure. Conditioning vote now. Motion fails and a tie.
Okay, guys, are we ready for the last thing ever? This is addressing TDOs and ECOs, no changes. This is similar to what we had last year as well. I just enhanced a little bit of it, but this is no changes from what you read in your work session.
So moved.
Let's move to
Or, well, is there a second? Okay.
Second.
Thank you. This is an item that we've all discussed as council, and we hear it all the time. Essentially, the ECOs and TDOs are taking our law enforcement off the street. It's a strain on them. Mr. Feraldi brought up some concerns also as this relates to emergency medicine and brought those forward in another item that I support in addition to this. But I think we need to address this issue, and it's got to be addressed through the legislature. So I would appreciate the support on this item.
Should you agree with the second?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Initiating the vote now. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. And now we just need a vote on your legislative package as a whole.
Cast your vote.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion, you got a second?
Adopt the legislative package as we just.
Yes.
All right, initiating the vote now.
Reading all the amendments.
Yes. The motion passes 5-1-1.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I know the hour thing, but take the opportunity that so Ms. Betsy Braun puts quite a bit of work in this, and
Yes, she
worked
does.
with each one of you, and so want to acknowledge that it wasn't until a couple years ago that we introduced this. She has a couple hats that she wears for and with me. This is one of those, and I think for each of you being responsive to her, it's no small effort. We did 22 this evening, and so I do want to acknowledge her and her efforts, and thank you for your responses and being timely with her. I do look forward to the dinner on the 18th. Thank you.
You got me like half the time. It's better than all other years. We've done a good job this year.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate this. Thank you.
We got one more item.
No, we did the second reading already, so
We did the second reading already. Motion to adjourn. This meeting is adjourned. The next meeting will be November 12th at 4 o'clock, second floor training room.